we're going to switch gears now to the NFL rather, and talk about the Juwan James fiasco out in Denver. Juwan James, offensive tackle for the Denver Broncos, signed a massive deal back in 2019. Hasn't really so far fulfilled, that deal, or at least hasn't lived up to it necessarily with his play. He opted out of 2020 because of COVID, and then this past offseason, he came back to Denver, was actually working out at the facility. And then the NFLPA has been, really kind of beating the drums about not having guys going to the facility right now during OTAs, organized team activities, which are supposed to be voluntary. So there's this this player versus team labor issue going on, which is really what this is about. But James kind of gets in the crossfire here because he was trying to do the right thing, work out at the facility. The players union told him to get out of there, and then he tears his Achilles outside of the team facility, and now there's certain parts of his contract that can be voided because of that injury occurring outside the facility. Brandon, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, this is a tough situation, and I know we're talking about a player that's making millions of dollars, so I'm sure some of the viewers are like, I don't really give a crap, and I totally get that, but this is, I still think, a tough situation. Imagine, going to work and you're preparing yourself for work, or you're going to like I don't know, some sort of like clinic to get yourself better for work, and you get hurt. And then your job's like, guess what? We're not going to pay you. And on top of that, you're fired too. Like, I'm sure people would be like, what? Like, I was just doing all that for my job. And that's exactly what Juwan James was doing. He was working out, trying to get better and improve his craft as an offensive lineman. He just happened to be working out outside of team facilities. And believe it or not, this is the norm for NFL players. Like you said, the players union wants them to be outside of the facilities right now and spend a little bit more time. When it gets closer to the season, they want them reporting. But right now, they don't want them reporting in that. So it is a union situation, but it also is a player situation. I mean, I know if I was making millions of dollars and I maybe was playing for the Denver Broncos, I don't think I'd want to stay in Denver year round. I'd probably want to go home and work out at home and see my family, maybe even go on some vacation. And that's what a lot of these players do. They go home and they work out at home, or they work out somewhere else with maybe professional trainers. And so you can't really knock that. I can understand knocking it if the guy comes in overweight, he can't perform, and then you're like, hey, man, you're just not living up to your contract. But this guy was out working out, trying to improve his craft, get in shape better, and he blew his Achilles out, which is a freak injury, but it's also possibly a career injury, something that could last him a long time here. So I get it that the Denver Broncos, they haven't got what they wanted out of this big contract. Like you said, he signed it in 2019. Then he only played in 6 games due to injury that year. Then in 2020, he opted out, and now he's not going to play this year. So I get it as if you're a Denver Broncos fan, you want to clear some cap space, you want to clear some money. But I think this, as a human and as a moral issue, I think it's just disgusting if you void the man's contract for doing exactly what you want him to do, getting himself better, working out and improving his craft. He just got hurt in a freak accident, and now you want to void his contract and take his money away. I think it would be disgusting. I was trying to look it up to see if the Broncos have come to that decision yet. And I know before the show, they still haven't determined whether or not they're going to go ahead and void his contract, and even if they're going to cut him. So it's still a situation that is up for decision right now and up in the air. So I hope for Juwan James that they go ahead and they stay true to the contract, at least for this year, so he can get paid, because he did everything right. And I think this sets a tone for players going forward. And if I'm a player going forward, I make sure that in my contract going forward that I have it written out that if I get hurt outside this, the facilities, I'm still getting paid. And especially if I'm a superstar player and I have pull over my contracts like a Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, or, a superstar like that, I'm going to make sure that in my contract, I'm protecting myself, because this is ridiculous, I think.
Yeah, I think, these types of stipulations and contracts are because, if a guy goes skiing and gets hurt, I kind of understand why you'd be able to avoid the contract. Like, you don't need to go skiing, if you go water skiing. There was one year Brady had a video of him jumping off a cliff. Now, if he got hurt, the Patriots could have voided his contract. They weren't going to do that because he's the greatest quarterback of all time. They weren't going to get rid of him. But, so that's another thing. Like if this is, Jonathan Ogden back in the day or Walter Jones or one of the best left tackles in the league, I think the team's probably not going to get rid of them. But because Juwan James hasn't really lived up to the contract yet, they're maybe okay with cutting bait. Now, here's the other thing. He would have been, if they cut him, let's say they cut him today, he's $9 million of dead money on the cap, right? Because he's still got his signing bonus that they have to pay out. I don't know if how much of that is voided, because of this whole thing, but they might have to then file a grievance, and it gets into this labor law thing. The other thing is if they wait till June 1st, they can actually spread out his cap money to $4.5 million this year and then $4.5 next year. So if they're going to cut him, it's going to be on June 1st or after June 1st, if that does happen. But again, there's going to be Juwan James's agents. They're going to file a grievance. They're going to have to go to some kind of court labor law situation, and that's going to be a mess. So the Broncos have to figure out what are we going to do as far as making sure we show that we're taking care of our players, making sure that we don't want this whole mess coming into our offseason and possibly the start of the year, and how the players going to react to that. So when you're a franchise that's still kind of building their team, they're probably not going to be a playoff contender next year. I think they should keep them. I just think that's probably just for them, being on the good graces of their players, they should probably just keep them. The other thing too is, this is such a unique offseason, and last offseason was so unique because of COVID. They're trying to keep guys out of the facilities. For the players union last year, they couldn't go to the facilities this early. So it's just such a weird time. What the NFL probably should have done is said to every player, listen, you want to work out somewhere other than our facility, we totally understand. Let us know your designated workout facility outside of the team facility, right? So whether it's a sports performance center or whatever, we know that you're working out there. And then if you get hurt there, then we won't void your contract. It'll be like you're working out at the team facility and then you get hurt, because then they're under like a trainer supervision. They're not going to try to get hurt at a sports performance center. They're not being reckless. They just got hurt working out. So if they had a designated training facility that's either near their house or wherever they're working out, there's places in Arizona and LA that a lot of players go to. Brady worked out in Montana all the time. Have a designated place like that that's almost like being at the actual team facility, but you're remote because of COVID. If the NHL had drafted something like that where they could adapt that for this particular offseason, I think then we would be in a better situation here than we are now. So it's going to be it's a labor law thing. It's like when Brady got suspended for Deflategate, that was a big labor law thing too. It became bigger than just the player. So that's what this is going to turn into, especially if the Broncos cut bait with Juwan James.
Well, first off, hey, if you're liking what you're seeing here, give us a subscribe, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a call into the show, because we're going to provide more quality content going forward. But yeah, I think it comes down to a couple of things too. I think every now and then you get a situation that redefines the market. And I think this is going to be one of those situations going forward, because you've seen a lot of NFL players, including Patrick Mahomes, commenting saying, wait a minute, this guy's going to get his contract voided for working out. So I think you've already heard the players' voices on it. So I think it already is redefining the market. And I think it's one of those things where if I'm the Denver Broncos, I think they should really think wisely about this, because remember, you have to bring free agents into your team too. And if you go ahead and you scare off players, then I know if I'm a free agent player and they void this contract, that I'd be thinking about going anywhere else but Denver, the Denver Broncos, because they're not backing their players and they're not going to support them going forward.
Yeah, real quick too. They are one of the possible teams for Aaron Rodgers too. So on the one hand, you're not going to have a left tackle to protect Aaron Rodgers. On the other hand, if you get rid of this left tackle, is that going to affect if Aaron Rodgers wants to go there? So that's another whole twist in the whole situation for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, man, they got a big decision to make with this, and I think you might be right too. They might be really thinking about like trying to stretch out that money and waiting until June 1st. So we'll keep eyes on this situation going forward.